Hello, good evening, everyone. Uh, this is a nice evening. It's hot in Dubai, uh, but that's how every year it is. It really gets hot in summertime here. I'm sure many people who live here have kind of experienced that, or people who have visited here, they have kind of experienced that. So today evening, as I do it every Tuesday evening, I talk about one topic which is applicable to a lot of us. Whether you are a hypnotherapist, whether you are a coach, or you are just an entrepreneur or working somewhere, because these are knowledge, these are experiences, these are techniques and information that is useful in every aspect of your life. So today I'm going to talk about linguistic patterns, that you can use it to motivate yourself and you can use it to influence others, because language is something that we do it all the time, we use it all the time. We use it to influence in many ways to different people. However, when we know that this is how you can use it, you can use it to you can use it more creatively, you can use it more with awareness so that you get the best result out of it. So thank you, Rizu, for joining us. I'm waiting for the guest of mine, who is Nishith, to join me. And once he joins, then we are going to start talking more about linguistic patterns. So thank you. Just hold on. Let's see. Hi, Kanti, for joining me here. I'm waiting for my guest to join in, and let's just wait for some more time. Hi, Hypno Brenda, thank you for joining. I'm just still waiting for my guests to come in, and then we are going to start talking about linguistic patterns and how it can help you influence other people. So let's see how it goes with Nishith. I'm waiting for him. Okay, so how is it going for you? How is this lockdown going for you? How did you spend your time? In many places it has opened, but in many places it is still not open completely, or it is partially. Like in Dubai, most of the things are coming back to normal, though there is a curfew after 11 o'clock in the evening, but that's, I think, all right. Hi, Nishith is here, so I'm just waiting. Yeah, great. So let's see what happens. So she's here, he's here. Hi, Hanadi, I know you're here. Thank you for joining. Okay, Nishith, yeah. Hi, Nishith. How are
Hello,
you?
hey Arti. I am good. How about you?
Good. Like enjoying the view from my office. It's a fantastic view from 32nd floor, and I have everything in front of me. It's all green and nice. So
Wow.
I'm enjoying that view. Yeah, so we
Yeah.
have many people who have joined us. We have Hanadi, we have Kanti, we have many other people who have joined us. So good to see you here, Nishith. And let me introduce Nishith to people who have joined us here now. Nishith is a NLP master coach and trainer. He has trained with the prodigy of John Grinder.
Sure.
And I have, when I met him last time at NLP conference, I really enjoyed the interaction. And just to give you more information about him, he's a founder of Thought Labs in India, which also has initiated NLP conferences in India. So he's a go-getter. I mean, and an amazing trainer, I can assure you that. Now, that's our guest for today. Just a bit about myself before we go into the topic. Hi, Tahir. Thank you for joining. We have somebody called Confident Child, because I can't read the name there. Okay, so myself, I'm based in Dubai. I'm a hypnotherapist and coach, and also only hypnosis trainer and an NFNLP coach. So, and I do a lot of other things as well. Nishit, how it is. It's never just like one thing. NLP, and that's not how you help your client. It's like, you do a comprehensive learning to help your client and serve them best. Great. So
Absolutely.
today we're going to talk about linguistic patterns and language in all. So give me some of your thoughts about what do you really consider as linguistic patterns and why it's important.
Okay. So for us to really go to what we consider linguistic pattern, I think we really have to go back in time, like when we used to live in caves, uh, and really understand that where does language come from, right? Because language isn't something now when we think about it, we are born with it. Now when we think about it, it's just something that um, we learn by modeling others, watching others. But if you look at the first word that would have ever come out in language, first of all, there used to be sign languages, right? Because people wouldn't know what to speak. They would just make sounds and then they would make hand gestures or they would make these cave paintings. But it's always interesting to realize that how would the first word be invented? And my assumption is that it would have been something like this, where someone is by the lake and suddenly an animal comes and there is this natural fight or flight response, right? So in that natural response, they go like, ah! And so there was this conditioning that, okay, there is this sound that this person made when this animal came. And that happened again. And that happened again. And so over the period of time, what would have happened is that every time someone made that sound, like the villagers or the cave tribes would have known that, okay, animals coming. And that's how the first word would have been like created. So the thing is that when language was created, now it wasn't created out of conscious effort, right? It wasn't how we learn today, like our teacher tells you A, B, C, D, and then we start to form words. No, it just came out of reactions, and it just came out of something. But I think over the period of time, someone would have realized that there has to be some commonality. There has to be some common ground for language to make sense. Because when I'm scared, I make a certain sound, and if when someone else is scared, they make a different sound, then we can't really know what it is. And I mean, today's world example is that let's say if we are in the same room with 5 people and one knows Mandarin and one knows Portuguese and one knows German, there is no way that we're going to be able to communicate with each other, right? Because everyone knows different language. So there had to be common grounds that had to be created. And that's the kind of birth of language patterns, as we call it in NLP and hypnosis. Because when people started creating language, they started creating out of this common ground. So there had to be something that was true for language to hold together. Like when we say apple, everyone knows what that is now, because unconsciously we just know now there are different things, different associations with apple. But in general, there are common grounds that had to make sense for us to live as a society. I mean, statistically, no tribe has ever survived who didn't invent language. And so which means that language was crucial for us to survive. And so we had to kind of work with this common ground for us to make sense. Now, the thing is, over the period of time, this commonality became so a primitive or such unconscious or such deep level that now we don't really realize. So now what happens is that all of us naturally follow this commonality in language, because if we don't, then we are automatically called an outcast or something. Because, like, let's say someone who has dyslexia, they just interpret language differently than most people, and
Yeah,
so then they've been considered outcasts because they don't see the language like the way we do. Um,
exactly. And even people, I mean, what I have learned about language is that if you are a multilingual, you speak, you behave differently in different languages. If you
yeah,
are a native speaker, you will you will behave totally different than you would behave in any other languages. So
yeah,
language in goes very, very, very long way. For me, linguistic patterns is all about how we choose words, how we place them in a sentence, what effect we want to create using it, and behind all of that, what is our thought process, what is our belief, what is our internal system and dialogue that has gone on to choose what we choose to speak and write. So this
yeah.
is for me, like, really the whole idea about linguistic patterns. Now we have many people who have joined us. We had Payal who
Mhm.
joined, we had Gina, we had some speech therapy help. I'm sorry, I can't read the entire name. Then we have Omi Sabu who joined us. So thank you for joining. Now, as we get into the topic, I would just like to, say, talk a little bit more about why we bother about language pattern. Why should we? Because we know the language, we know the words, we know the syntax and the meaning and the grammar. Why can't we just kind of, use it? Now, the focus comes when we want to bring some change in our life, when we want to, because it's like old pattern will bring old result, old behavior will bring old results. So when we want to bring change in our life, we need to bring change in the way we speak a language. So it's for motivating yourself or motivating anybody else or influencing others, whether you are a coach or you are an entrepreneur or you are a manager somewhere. So this is all about why we need to talk about language pattern. And I believe that, NLP should be taught in the school, because this is where they learn how to really, use language in a
Yeah.
amazing creative way. Yeah. So thank you, Denti Barot, for joining us, Bhavini Sechpal for joining us. So I'll give you a few reasons why we should talk more about it. Now, I've written my notes, otherwise I can talk about something for hours together. So the first reason that we kind of use it is to influence others and motivate yourself, as I just kind of mentioned. The second reason that we use and effectively use language pattern is to bypass the critical faculty. Now if you are a coach or a therapist, you understand that we all have this invisible resistance to change, and how to kind of bypass that is something that we can use it or do it by selecting the right words, giving or putting our sentence and in such a way that it helps people to not reject your idea or your thought or what you are trying to kind of communicate there. The other reason that we use it is because the more we use it more creatively with appropriate words, etc., it starts, there is a center in our brain, is called a reticular activating system, and that gets more activated. Now how it works is very simple. It works like an antenna. It's like it just kind of grabs something which is coming new. For example, if you are driving somewhere and if you're sitting in a car somewhere, and
you slept in the car because somebody else is driving and you are stuck in the traffic, you can simply sleep there, or you can have a nice nap and all, but you will immediately wake up with all the sounds around you. It's not a problem. But if somebody honks very near to you, you will get up, because now the whole pattern is interrupted. The sounds around you were totally okay. Suddenly there is something that came out of order, and that kind of, you kind of get up from the sleep. And it's the same thing that RAS does for us. When the pattern is interrupted, it pays attention to it. Simply like an antenna, it just takes away what is needed. So this is another reason that we use it. Now, this is something which I really like to talk about, epigenetics. Yes, I'm not a scientist, but we all can study. We all have that mind to study. And there has been a lot of research going on that what happens to the junk DNA that we have. Like we have 90%, which is junk DNA, they call it, because it doesn't produce any proteins, in the body. So they called it as junk DNA. And the scientists realized that, the nature is not dumb. It is what, there was a reason it was created. So they started experimenting it with. Now I'll not go into the detail of what they did with it, but they realized that the codes in that junk DNA resonated with the code of the rules of the grammar, the syntax of a particular language, and the semantic of different words and sentences. So the language that we speak today, as you started with, it didn't happen by accident, just like that. Then there was a thought process that kind of went into it, which kind of resonated with what we really are today. So there are so many reasons why we need to focus and create a kind of acceptance within us, so that we pay more attention to the importance of linguistic patterns, because it is used in everyday life. I mean, whether you are in every place, whether it's personal, professional, you are a broadcaster, you are a marketer, you are a coach, you are a hypnotherapist, or you are a doctor, everywhere you will use language as a way of communicating, motivating yourself, and influencing others. So these are like my way of thinking, and my way of thinking why we need to focus on that. So tell me more about what you would like to include more into what kind of different language patterns we can think about it, and how to first of all interrupt it.
So that depends on where we are at and what we really want to do. I think first step with anything is when we think about interrupting a language pattern, the first thing to recognize is that first we have to be aware of it, right? To even know that we have to interrupt something. Because often language is such deep rooted that a lot of times we use this pattern which may not work for us, and we are not aware of it. And the most simplest example of this is often people use the words but, or they use the word no at the beginning of a statement, right? It's a very common example. Now, even if they are saying the same thing in the conversation with the other person, they are in agreement, they are having this amazing conversation, they're talking about the same thing, yet they start the statement with a but. Now, unconsciously, what happens is that mind considers that as a mismatch. Not negative, not something wrong, but it's just something that seems like a mismatch. And so which means that even though people are on the same page, they end up thinking as if they're not on the same page and they're not saying the same thing. I mean, I've worked with so many organizations over a period of time, and I've seen that so many times there are conflicts in organizations just because people don't recognize this simple thing of but and a no. The thing is that it's so unconscious that people don't even realize that they're using it. It's just something that they say. And even after I pointing it out, people go like, seriously, did I say that? And so it's just,
True.
and so I think interrupting language, first thing, I think the first biggest step is to find that awareness. That how can you start becoming aware of your own language patterns? Uh, the way to create that awareness is to recognize that what are these different patterns that you need to be aware of. Like but, I mean, as simple as shifting but to and it makes such a huge difference. Right?
Yeah.
There are patterns related to time. Uh, one of the most amazing conflict that I had noticed in one of the teams that I was coaching in an organization, it was very simple. Right? There was this one guy talking about the project, saying that, you know what, this happened in the past, so we should do this. And the other guy went like, you know what, this is what we could do differently. Now they're both saying the same thing, right? They're both saying, the one guy saying that this is what happened, so we should focus on this, and the other guy saying that this is what we could do differently in future. Except they both thought that they're not on the same page, because one person
Yeah.
was operating from past, so there was a uh, past-based language, whereas the other person was operating from future, so he had a
Yeah.
future-based language, and
Yeah. And
just
also the
that's enough.
possibility that how we can do this differently. It's like asking the possibilities of something, I'm leaving it open for
Yes,
it, yeah, it's like openness there that, how can we do this differently.
yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah, go
I
on.
mean, so that's the thing. I think the first step is to start recognizing your own language patterns and to really slow down, because most people nowadays, at least in my opinion, with this fast-paced world, with this social media and with all of these things, I think most people take language for granted. Uh,
Yeah.
but the thing to really do is to really slow down and pay attention to how some phrases or how certain words that you tend to use have an impact on the experience that you have.
Yes.
Once you
Yeah.
recognize that experience, then comes interrupting the pattern.
Yes. Absolutely. Because awareness is the first, you know, I mean, it's like a first step towards change. Unless there is an awareness, unless there is an acceptance of that these things are not as effective as I would like to be. This is again
Yes,
another language pattern, because there is a possibilities of saying that there is always a possibility of doing something better than I did
yes,
it yesterday.
mm,
And so it kind of opens up that, there are other ways in which, like as a coach, as a therapist, I use pattern interrupt while somebody's talking, but this is more of in terms of the talking, somebody talking to my client talking to me, or participant talking to me. We have
yes,
Neha joined us. We have Radhika. We have Mandip joined us. So thank you all for joining. Yeah. So I like to use something called Metamodel, and
yes,
I really love it, because there is so much of going on in the mind, in the people, and that happens with me as well. I'm not saying that we are bereft of no issue at all, but it's again placing that possibility that I'm more aware of how I communicate. Rather, I like using meta model. Now, what meta models are basically the questions that will interrupt your thought process. So if anybody here who is here with us right now, in the NLP coach or NLP practitioner, they'll know what we are talking about. Meta model are simply the questions that you can ask. For example, if somebody says that, I'll speak from my own example, that somebody says that I want to quit smoking, and I'll say, okay, why now? You have been smoking for 20 years. Why now? And suddenly they said, I don't know. I just think that I want to quit. But then putting the whole process of their thinking in place that helps them to decide that these are the reason we are, doing these things. Now, this is the only time in my conversation with my client I would use why. I don't really use why a lot because, again, it engages the critical faculties. There are other ones, that I'd like to. I'll just kind of read out few questions that, many times people, if you ask them what do they want in their life, they cannot tell you, but there are so many things that they will say that I don't want this in their life. Yeah. I mean, if you are a coach, you would know that people say, I don't want this in my life. I don't want this in my life. And then we begin to ask a question, then what do you want? So when you become aware of this, I don't want this in my life. I mean, this, I'm done with it. I don't want. But then what do you want in its place, So again, changing that, interrupting the pattern with a simple question, or I don't like this. Yeah. So what would you like instead, I mean, if not this one, what would you like instead? It is similar thing like I don't want this, We have a hardy nomad joining us. Thank you for joining us. With whatever going right now, people say, oh, this is mess. This is, the life is tough. And so begin to ask, what is tough right now? Yeah, what is so messy? Simple questions, and it will help you break your own patterns of thinking and the way you're talking to yourself, because these are all self-talk, and Metamodel is very good way to break down those thinking pattern with yourself or while you are talking to your client. Yeah, so these are some few examples. I mean, we can go on talking about Metamodel for longer than this. So, I mean, tell me more about, what kind of language pattern, what type of different things that you use to help people be more aware of their language pattern and the model that, we were discussing this morning.
What specifically? What model?
About language pattern, what kind of different language pattern that you like our audience right now to listen to.
So I think some of the key patterns, some of the most crucial one which exists at the core of every experience is something which we call cause and effect, which most people know about. Right. So when people tend to use the words like because, when people tend to use the words like not means, but if, then, now what cause and effect signifies is that one experience is causing you to have another experience. Now, as much as it seems simple, but yet most people don't recognize this. There are still studies shows that about 90 to 95% of people live on the effect side of things, which is to say that they're using language which puts them on the effect, as if things are happening to them, as if things are, they have no control or they have no responsibility over what's really going on. Whereas there are very few people who use linguistic phrases which are more on the cause side of things. So as an example, as simple as when someone gets frustrated and they say, you know what, this guy frustrated me. Now that itself is such a simple but such an amazing cause and effect language pattern. Because the moment someone says, or moment, let's say I go and say that, what, he frustrated me so much today. What I am saying is that, first of all, that's not true. That no one can ever actually come and frustrate me. But what I'm saying is that someone did something for which I frustrated myself. And so to create that distinction and shifting from he frustrated me to I frustrate myself is shifting from being on the effect to being on the cause. Which I think if people can get one thing out of our conversation today on this Instagram Live is to be aware of this pattern and just shift that, right? That itself makes a huge difference. because your language creates your reality. Right? So the way if you change your language, you change your reality. And so which means that if you shift your language to be on the cause side of things, automatically the way you experience life changes. You stop being less of a victim and start being more of in charge of your own experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I so totally agree with you right now on this. Particularly when I work with my clients as well. You know, they want to talk about their relationship. They want to talk about what happened with the mother or the father or the spouse or the partner or friends. I mean, they want to talk about everybody. And I would say that how much you can control them, and they'll say nil. I mean, I can't really control them, that's why I have a problem. And then I would ask them, then do you want to begin to be in charge of how you feel and how you react about something? So these are two questions that simply, yes, I can do that. And the way again we put it, that would you like to be in control of or in charge of how you feel about and how you react? And the answer is generally yes, I would like to do that, because there is nothing that you can do about other people or the situations. I mean, right now, all the things that are going around us, we are not in control of it. So, do you want to live with the memory of living in frustration, or you want to living in the memory of something that that you did something about, controlling your inner life, controlling your inner mind, controlling your personal life, how you want to live here, with what's going on right now? Again, this is like the same Metamodel question, is deciding, helping you decide how you choose to live. So we have some more people who joined. Christina, hi. Cam Learner joined us. There are few, but I can't see right now who else joined. So thank you for joining. And I think I really like this cause and effect as a language pattern. Also, this can be used in a creative manner, like say, as a result of whatever changes that you have made in your life, what will it do for you? Or as a result of this, or as a result of getting rid of your anxiety, you're going to be happy, you're going to be here and now. So it can be used in that way as well, because though you can use it to break that pattern, you can also use it to create new realities for you, because whatever we do will have some impact on you. So another way to use it is like as a result of it. Kanti had just written it here that, as if. So people like to, use it as if, as one of the possibility. There are, other words like, you already mentioned is like the because of. Again, because of this is happening with me, or because of somebody, this is happening with me. There is Red and Marco company joined. There's Deepak who joined us. Yeah. So there are other aspect of, there is something we call it as awareness pattern. So what is that awareness pattern, and how you can, really use it to, change the way you think about something, or to help other people. Awareness pattern is all about, saying that, have you realized this? Yeah. Or have you noticed this? So these are few words when you start the phrase with this, start a sentence with this phrase that have you noticed this, or do you realize that what's the, what is this doing to you or for you? Whatever is that context that helps them, make them create that inner awareness without having been kind of rejecting the idea that you want to put across, because most of the time we like to make as a statement rather than a question, because most of the time when you make a statement, you are making statement from your own perspective rather than allowing the other person to accept your perspective. So when you start a phrase like, have you noticed that, how making mistakes, you can also learn to change, or learn from your mistakes. Have you realized that all the mistakes of the past has helped you to learn something? So you're telling a lot of things within this one statement here, or one question here. Yeah. There are other one like, naturally, as you are likely to pay attention towards your communication. So when you use words like awareness, naturally, again, that's a word that goes across all the levels of the resistance within a person. So this is something I even like to use this awareness patterns while in communicating with my client, because creating awareness, when you say, okay, are you aware of this? Yeah. So definitely you are catching the attention of the person, because there is something that is new coming to it, or do you realize that, things like that. Then there are one more, which is again creating time and space, kind of an awareness pattern, the linguistic pattern. So it's more like the sooner we resolve, because there is a time and place, how quickly you want it, how soon you want it, the sooner we resolve it, more better, in whichever way we want to kind of go. Or it's like during this difficult time, and then complete it with whatever that is suitable for you. So during this difficult time, how you want to live your life, how you want to remember this time, and things in kind of that order. So there are other way, like if you are in a meeting and you want to put across your idea, there are other way to communicate, is that while we look at this situation, let's think about how we can resolve it. So that will create an atmosphere of acceptance, even within a group. Because if you are making totally neutral sentences that nobody will have an objection to, accept it as a way of working around whatever difficulty or problem that you want to kind of talk about. So I even like this creating time and space kind of during, while, and sooner is, I love that word, sooner the better, we even say that very loosely. So these are some amazing way of communicating. So let's hear from you now. What is it that how you like to give more information about this language patterns?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many patterns that we have to pay attention to, specifically when we think about influencing, or when we think about coaching others. One of the patterns that I really enjoy working with is presuppositions. They're so strong because for us to communicate, like I shared earlier with the history of language, that for us to communicate, some things have to be true. If they are not true, then we can't communicate. So that works at a very unconscious level. And so that's why something like a presupposition is such a powerful pattern. So it goes, if I were to ask, let's say if I were to ask you, have you ever been caught stealing? What would be your response? Usually when I ask this question, people will say yes, or people will say no. But the idea is that no matter what they say, there is a presupposition in that people are stealing. And so that's one of the most significant way to influence people. So when you are a coach, you can significantly influence your clients by presupposing certain beliefs, by presupposing certain values, by presupposing certain empowering identities for them, and then use that as a linguistic pattern, which will create an amazing impact. The same thing can be done for self. right? To become aware of that, what are the kind of presuppositions you are using? Like, what are the kind
Yes.
of presuppositions that are there that exist within you? Because a lot of times we operate from these presuppositions which are limiting us, which aren't working well for us, and to pay attention to that. So, which is also, I think, one of the patterns that I really enjoy exploring with people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was a good one. I mean, I have learned about it, but I think I've forgotten about it. So good you
Yeah,
reminded me, you know, it was a good way to put forward, you know, because
yeah,
yes, you know, it's like the same thing, you know, just presupposition that I didn't know that it was there in me. Now you kind of, you know,
yeah,
brought it out just by talking about it, you know.
yeah,
Wonderful. So I like certain phrases to, you know, begin with, you know, like I'm wondering, you know, starting with I'm
yes,
wondering, and it's again, you know, because I'm saying it, but I'm not saying it. Yeah,
yes,
I'm wondering, is it possible for you to consider this? Yeah, and
yes,
I like it with my kids, you know, I use it, you know, kids really melt down when you give them this possibility, you know. It's like, I'm wondering if it is possible for you to finish it by this time. And the answer is generally, you know, nodding, yes, it is possible. Because
yeah,
you're not telling them, you're not commanding, you're saying it, but you're not saying it, you know. So it's a wonderful way to kind of, you know, use it and get to do what you as a parent want to kind of, you know, do it
yeah,
with your kids. Yeah,
yeah,
and then another one is, again, I like it that you probably already know that, you know, it's again presupposition, you know, that you probably
yeah,
already know that this is what it is. So this is a good way to work with your staff. You know, you have a
yeah,
team that you're managing. You know, when you begin with that you already probably know it, you are kind of really creating a situation where that they will be aware of it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So it's again another great way to kind of, you know, begin your phrases.
yes.
Yes. Yes. Go on.
Ah, sorry, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. Another one that I really like is that one can, and you know, one can Nitish begin to enjoy, and then whatever they want to kind of, you know, enjoy being slim, enjoy being in control of your career, in charge of life. One can't they,
Yeah,
or can't you? And that's again, you know, yes, because there is always a yes answer. You want to enjoy it, you know, something that you
yeah,
are looking for to do it in your life. So I like
yeah.
this
I mean,
phrase a lot. I don't know where to kind of put it right now.
can is a it's such a possibility word, right?
A huge one.
And so,
Yeah.
which means,
Yeah.
yeah, so when you say one can, it opens up possibilities for others.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Recently I was watching some videos of Robert Niyaki. I'm sorry, I mean, I forgot the name. He's the one who wrote that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you know, and he has some amazing videos on certain channel.